Alright, replay review Tooth on Malfurion on Battlefield of Eternity. So, there's two things I want to talk about before starting this game. First is, they did last time, talk about drafts and our game plan going into this. The second is the hero itself. We will start with the drafts first. Um, some interesting stuff to take away from this. So, the first thing that comes to mind immediately is let's look at your comp. So you have an offlane variant, which is not something I'm usually a fan of. He does get a little bit extra value on this map because Smash uh, is, let's go to his point of view. His ultimate Colossus Smash does armor shred the immortal too. It's not just on heroes, so it increases your team's race to it. And with Smash and High King's Quest, he does some decent single target damage, so his race is actually pretty good with Smash. And his typical weakness, which is that he's in the offlane, that is, which is that he's really gankable and his clear kind of sucks, is both are less relevant in Battlefield, where he doesn't spend as much time in the offlane and he only needs to clear one lane in the first place. I would still much prefer someone with better clear, just to make sure that they can get prior and rotate down to objective as soon as possible, and that if there are waves to deal with, they can go deal with them. But it's if you must pick offlane variant, this is one of the better maps for it. Um, we've also got double mage, which is something that I'm going to guess at least one person was upset about in draft. It's worth looking at because in this case, Tassadar and Azebo are both cooldown based heroes. So you're a little bit gated behind your cooldowns when you can fight. But both of them deal some decent sustained damage. So it's not like you're all in on burst. You can keep like poking them and throwing abilities at them. And with Murden set up, you can absolutely get kills. The thing you're largely looking to do in team fight is something around along the lines of like Murden finds a stun on someone, you drop a root on them, maybe we even drop a Naz wall on top of them too. Variant can smash them, and then Naz and Variant dump Naz and Tassadar, maybe even Variant dump all their damage onto them, and they should die. Um, should be pretty. That should be a pretty reliable way to get kills. Also relevant that Garrosh on the other team, a lot of his survivability comes from the armor he gets, and Smash Variant shreds armor. Now, armor can go below zero, which is the basis of racing with the immortal with it. But due to some math that I'm not going to go into now, but like feel free to ask if you want details or you can try and do the math yourself. Armor reduction is more relevant on targets that already have armor and is more relevant the higher the armor gets to. So for Garrosh, who already has baseline armor and it gets higher the lower health he gets, Smash is actually a lot of value to make sure you can kill him. Alright, there's that. Looking at the other team here, they have double roots, they have triple frontline, which is very interesting, and main DPS Tychus. Main DPS Tychus kind of sucks. I think Tychus would be much better served being on most other DPS in all honesty. He's short range and he's cooldown dependent. He uses his D to do damage and needs people locked down for it. So Garrosh can throw people and then Tychus can like blow them up. That's true. But if their goal is to form a big wall and keep their DPS to keep pew-pew-pewing away, Tychus is not great for that. Triple frontline is kind of good for you though, because that gives you more Moonfire hits for more healing, and we'll go over that in a little bit after I'm done with the draft here. The fact that we've got W1 Hogger probably means it's more 4-man Hogger, going to be brawling more, while Leoric's going to go to the off lane. Fine, doesn't really matter too much which is which, probably 4-man Hogger is better than 4-man Leo for them now. They also have Healer Lily, Lily kind of sucks, um, so that's a plus for you. And especially since both your damage structure is heavily ability based and the blinds don't really matter. Yeah. The way we're looking to play it is kind of as I described before. We're looking to get a burden stun. You're gonna drop your root on top of them, and then we're just gonna throw a bunch of damage on them, and they should die. Lily will have a cleanse, which makes that a little awkward, but and maybe jugs, but there's only so many defensive cooldowns they can use before they start dying. All right. The concerns are if Garrosh finds a throw, you don't really have a way to save targets. So if you lost this game, I'm going to guess it's largely because Gauch was finding flank angles and throwing your team in, and you couldn't save them. But you can mitigate that a little bit by poking him with Moonfire to keep him dismounted and using Moonfire to grab vision on the flanks. Moonfire is a very low cooldown if you're not actively using on heroes. You can always just like throw in a bush or sorry, just throw it on like a flank angle to grab vision because it does reveal um, the area that it hits. It's also basically instant cast, so if Gauch is running up on a mount, you can W him. Right. Now, second part of this, Malfurion as a hero. Uh, so I'm gonna make some guesses about how you're gonna be playing Malfurion here, because as far as I know, you're fairly new to the game, new to MOBAs in general. And Malfurion's a fairly complex hero that I've seen a lot of new Malfurion players make very similar mistakes on him. And it largely comes down to Malfurion has to press a lot of buttons very frequently. Once you kind of know the rhythm of Malfurion, it becomes a lot easier. But for a new player on Malfurion, it's kind of overwhelming and they usually lose a lot of efficiency for it. So let's just go do a general overview of Malfurion here to make sure you understand what the hero is supposed to do and how to play him, so that when I point out what you're almost certainly going to be doing wrong with him, you have some context for that. So Malfurion is very interesting. He a lot of his kit comes from the pairing of Q and W. Your Q, 5-second cooldown, puts a mark on an ally, lasts for 20 seconds. And while that mark's on them, they have a small heal over time. The 395 there looks like a lot, but remember, it's over 20 seconds, so it's really just some trickle healing. Q alone is not really great healing, but what is great healing is W. W is a 3-second cooldown, little area skill shot. You just start target an area and you do some damage there. And for every hero you hit with it, everyone with a Q on them gets healed for a solid amount. This 135 doesn't maybe look like much, but remember, it's on a 3-second cooldown, and if you hit multiple heroes, you get that multiple times over. If you figured this stuff out or know this already from reading like Malfurion guides or playing with him a bit, I apologize, but again, I want to just go over it here. So, your goal as Malfurion, you can see the cooldowns kind of line up in an interesting way. Your goal as Malfurion is to get Q on as many people as possible and keep that Q rolling constantly. And that's one layer of your button presses. Every 5 seconds, basically, give or take some, you want to be pressing Q on whoever has the lowest duration of Q left on them. You'll see when you put Q over someone's head, there's a little leaf symbol, and like it has a little tick down in a half circle around it. It'll be green at the start, and then it'll transition to orange as it ticks down some more, and then it'll transition to red as it's about to run out. So your one level of Malfurion is get Q on everyone, then keep reapplying Q. You want Q permanently on everyone around you. So you need to keep a mental list of who's the next person I need to Q to keep their Q up. And then who's the next person. You just do a cycle of each person. And that you need to be pressing that every 5 seconds. Because if you look at this, it lasts 20 seconds and has a 5-second cooldown. So baseline, you have exactly 4 up with 0 margin of error. Practically, with your your fingers, your level of comfort with the game, I'd be fine if you have 3 up constantly. That's kind of what I'd expect an average Malfurion to be capable of. 4 up constantly is fairly difficult since you have no margin of error. You're probably going to drop some eventually. You want to aim for 4 though. And you have talents that can help with that, by the way. We'll get into that later. So that's their one level of difficulty with Malfurion. The second is you need to also be pressing W every 3 seconds to maximize your healing out of it. If there's enemies in range, you keep Wing them. So now you have 2 levels of button presses. You need to be every 5 seconds pressing Q on an ally and mentally keeping in mind which ally needs your Q next, so you can put your cursor onto them immediately. And then every 3 seconds, you also need to be pressing W. So you kind of switch your brain back and forth. Q ally, W enemy, Q ally, W enemy, Q ally, W enemy. It's a lot of moving your mouse around. It's a lot of switching your focus from looking at your allies to target EQ to looking for enemies to W. And if you're missing your Qs, if you're like off on your Q, if you off on your W, that throws your entire rhythm off. You're losing healing from doing that. The right side is once you get this down, it's actually in some ways easier because you don't have to think about what allies need healing. You're you don't have to like identify, oh, this person's in trouble, I need to dump healing onto them. Your your cycle is basically the same no matter what, because if you have a Q on them and you're pressing W on cooldown, that's about it. That you can't there's no button that dumps more healing onto them. You just keep queuing in W, and you can kind of just keep yourself safe, keep Qs on everyone, keep Wing people, and that's your healing. And then we'll introduce a third level of Malfurion, which is your E. Your E, basically just a skill shot. Area root, you target an area, and then roots spread from that area to fill a larger area, and anyone that steps inside is rooted. Largely, for now, we're just going to think of this as follow-up CC. When your Muradin lands a stun, you drop a root under them to extend that CC. You can also kind of use it for zoning and trying to hit raw roots, but that's a little more difficult to do and identify, and using E too much wastes your mana. So we just want to, for now, use our E for follow-up. So you're holding your E for when Muradin lands a stun. So that's your third layer. You're queuing allies every 5 seconds. You're Wing enemies every 3 seconds. And then you also need to be looking at your Muradin and ready to press E. On the bright side, Innervate here is pretty straightforward. It's just 25 seconds, gives someone mana and cooldown reduction. There's some funny things you can do about this, but for now, we just want to be pressing it every 25 seconds. Just figure out who needs mana the most, dump it on them. In team fights, the basic ability recharge is actually really relevant, but for now, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I just dump it every 25 seconds, just press it on someone. Both your Nazeebo and Tassadar are going to be chewing through mana. Nazeebo probably a bit more than Tassadar, since Tassadar has mana regen inherent in his kit. So you're probably going to be pressing on Nazeebo a bunch, sometimes Tassadar. Now, you said you went the Icy Veins regrowth build, which I've looked at, and is largely what I would recommend as well. Some stipulations, it recommends Emerald Dreams, Vengeful Roots is also valid if you prefer that, and is arguably better in Storm League, but irrelevant. Rejuvenation is very important, and it's very hard to skip on Rejuvenation because it gives you an extra Q on you, which means you're getting healing as well. You don't need to ever spend a Q on yourself, so you constantly have healing for any damage you're taking. And then it's also relevant because a lot of Malfurion's later talents care about how many Qs he has active. And we will get to those later. Level 7, I assume you went Nature's Cure because that's what it says in the build. And largely I would agree with that. Cleanse is very good. Instant cleanse on everyone is very, very good. It is a soft cleanse. It doesn't actually give unstoppable like, say, Lily's cleanse, but it can still be really relevant to save your allies. Couple of stipulations here. Wild Growth is easier to use. Cleanse is another button press, as another layer to an already mentally challenging hero like Malfurion. If you do want to focus on Malfurion and get better overall, I would still recommend taking Cleanse and figuring out how to use it, because it will make you better in the long run. But Wild Growth will make you better just if all you care about is winning games right now. In this game, Wild Growth might actually be the correct choice because there's very little for you that you care about cleansing on the enemy team. You can't cleanse Leoric's big button, which is Entomb. Lily doesn't really have anything you care about cleansing. Tychus doesn't really have anything you care about cleansing. Hogger, if he goes Shockwave, could be something you care about cleansing. You could also cleanse his wall stun. Garrosh is not something you can really cleanse that much. If he Qs, then E's, hits his stun, then walks up to throw someone, you can cleanse the stun so that so your allies can run away so he doesn't get the throw, but you can't cleanse the throw, which is kind of his most scary ability. Arguably, it's still good to take cleanse because maybe just the ability to cleanse the stun is relevant. You can cleanse at least one thing from Hogger. You can cleanse Leoric slow, and maybe those are all relevant. Personally, I would just go Wild Growth because there's not really any obvious abilities that are incredibly threatening that you need to cleanse. And Wild Growth just gets a little bit more value, in my opinion. Perhaps at a very highly technical level, it's still worth to go cleanse here. I could absolutely see that, but I would personally just make it easier on myself and go Wild Growth. I assume you're going Tranquility because, again, that's in the build. Fantastic, what I would recommend in most games anyway. And this is kind of your burst healing, but not really. You want to just pop this when team fights break out. And it's a lot like Dragon Queen from Alex Strauss, if you remember what I told you about that last time. While Tranquility is active, your team is gaining a bunch of extra healing. They've got some nice armor, which is quite relevant in some cases. You know, it's making it. It's like, all right, Tranquility is active. Enemy team is now at a disadvantage because just of stats. So they either fight into your Tranquility and more likely than not lose, or they back off. So you need to pop it when they can't easily back off, either because they just physically can't, or because they will lose if they do it. You want to wait until they commit and then pop. So like the one Dragon Queen that you used mid lane on Tomb that we saw, where enemies committed hard, you popped Dragon Queen, and then you won the team fight off of that. That's sort of the same situation where you want to use Tranquility. Level 13, I assume you go Nature Swiftness. Good, and this is the first one that cares about how many Qs you have active. So synergizes with your level 4 Rejuvenation. Or Moose Speed is quite good. Moose Speed is just generically good for every hero. It's also great for you because it allows you to step up, get a good W hit off, ideally on a clump if you can find it, or even just on one person, and then sort of back off so you're not in too much danger. Level 16, I assume you went Moonlit Harmony, because again, the build. Also, this is also cares about how many Qs you have active. So again, synergizes with your level 4, synergizes with your ability to keep Qs active. Just boosts your W heal by a lot. Very good. So level 20, I assume you went Serenity. Also cares about how many. Well, no, it doesn't care about your Qs. It cares about your W hits. And it cares about your Qs. I'm thinking of a different talent or something. Yeah, it cares about both. So again, synergizes with your level 4, synergizes with how well you can keep your Qs active. And it's just straight upgrade to Tranquility. You have it more often, and it heals more. Pretty good. Alright, I've rambled a lot. We know what our game plan is. We know how we want to play Malfurion, so I'm going to be looking for you keeping Qs spread on as many people as possible, and pressing W as much as possible, largely. Let's get into it. As you approach lane, you could start queuing someone already. Yeah, you don't really use Q for healing. It's just your mark on my enemies. Stepping up this far is a little sus. Like staying here until you see enemies is pretty good. I Q your Nazebo because he's walking up a bunch. That is a very bold face check on Nazebo's part. Let's Q on him. Press your W. Yeah, not pressing W already an issue that I'm seeing. You have a fat clump here that you could get W off of. Get a nice root off. Walking in melee range here is absolutely a misplay. You don't need to be this close to Tychus to land the W on him. You have Q up, Q someone. If you can get... Who is this here? Muradin? If you can get to Muradin, that would be ideal. If not, Q your Tassadar. Also, you can innervate either one of your Tassadar or Nazebo here. Full Q. You do Q. You Q Tassadar, that's fine. Step up in W. Good. Now you want to try and Q your Muradin. Good. And innervate's not being pressed. Good try with the W. I mean, horrific misposition of it, but misclicks happen. I won't ding you too much for missing skill shots. That just comes with mechanical practice. Stepping up too far. Alright, your Q's up. Should be going on your Nazebo. Or your Variant, either or. Q's been up too long without you pressing it. The only time you don't really press Q on cooldown is when you don't have enough people for it to be worth it. Like if you just have two people, if you have just two people near you, or even if you have three people near you, you don't need to press Q exactly on cooldown. You can hold it a little bit because Q gets the same value no matter how much duration it has left. It's always a constant heal over time, and the mark doesn't go right until the entire Q goes away. So if you have less people than with the full cooldown sync, i.e. if you have less than 4 people, you can hold Q for a little bit to not use as much mana per second. But you have everyone here, so you should be pressing Q purely off cooldown. You're walking up way too far. Again, I think W's baiting you, and I can definitely see how that's happening. I would try to avoid queuing yourself. The first 3 levels of Malfurion are rough because you don't have rejuvenation. You do need to queue yourself there, but ideally you don't ever want to be queuing yourself. W, nice. Q and a Z-bow. And see the fact that you haven't been pressing Q on cooldown now makes it really awkward, because the Q on Burden is about to run out, but Z-bow also doesn't have a Q, so you're about to have 2 people with no Qs. Ideally, you should have 0 people with no Qs. Well, except you. You could have 1 person without a Q. Maybe 2 people, because again, we're going to cut you some slack being new. We're aiming for 3 active Qs, plus after 4 active Qs from your rejuvenation. You can technically have 5, but it's really difficult to keep 5 running permanently. Right now you have 2, which is significantly under what we're aiming for. You have W active, you're walking away when you should be stepping up to W. Your Murden or your Tassadar, either or. Probably your Tassadar, because your Murden is going to fall back and regenerate anyway. Also, pressing Innervate. We're not pressing Innervate. I'll cut this out later. I just want to, for the first couple minutes, we're going to really hammer in all the missed button presses. Right with the Q. Alright, yeah. Very bad E. This is how you go out of mana on Malfurion, pressing E too much. I mean, and also just he eats mana in general. But that E had no chance of hitting anyone. You're kind of just rooting the minion wave. It doesn't do anything to the minion wave. Again, we want to save it for when Muradin hits a Q, so we can follow up on it. Q's off cooldown, you're not pressing it. Stepping into melee range of the Hogger again. Tap, by the way. You have tap up, you're running out of resources. Just tap now. Still haven't pressed Innervate. W. Again, bad E. Haven't pressed W in a while. W, not enough though. Maybe remember to press Innervate. Very good. Honestly, with the Tassar dying, the angle may have been that you should just back, because it's not really anything you're going to be doing here. Maybe better to save the tap timer for later, because Malfurion, again, guzzles mana, which means you're going to want to be tapping as much as possible. Anytime you can back instead of tap means you have your tap up sooner. W. You need to Q yourself there. Do your burden as soon as you're able, by the way. Don't think of Q as a healing, just think of it as a mark. You want your mark on as many people as possible, even if they're not damaged. Basically, if they're marked, they can get damaged in the next 20 seconds, and they will always be getting healing from your W. A big draw of Malfurion, beyond just his incredible sustain, is that Q is an infinite range heal. You have Q on someone, and you hit W, no matter where that ally is, they will be getting the W heal. So even if your ally's not damaged at all, if there's any chance they're going to get damaged in the next 20 seconds, just put the Q on them. Also bad E. Yeah, you can Q your Muradin here. You should be doing that. Yeah, because you didn't have the Q on Muradin, that W you got on Garrosh did not heal your Muradin. Now it's a little less relevant on Muradin because he doesn't, you're wasting mana with these E's. Because he regenerates health. Anyway, you have Innervate up, you should Innervate your Nazebo. Not Innervating Nazebo. You're walking way, way, way too far up. That is illegal amounts of walking up. You see, at the point you walk up, you don't see the Garrosh, you just see the Tychus. You're greeting for that W on Tychus. Garrosh probably isn't down here. He probably went to tap. It's a decent odds, but he could be down here. You have no idea where, well, yeah. You have no idea where Leoric is. You have no idea where Hogger is. Leoric's probably still topside. Hogger could be back, though. He could be in this bush. I don't even know where Lily is. Lily could pop up and slow you, and then Garrosh could walk up and throw you. Actually curious, is Hogger soloing bot camp? He is. Well, with Lily. Yeah. So they were below you. If they had cared to, they could have found a flank on you. You should probably just back, by the way. You don't have tap for a while, and you have no mana. There's basically nothing to fight for here since you're not going for bot camp. I would just be backing. Yeah, so this is why we don't walk up, by the way, when we have no vision on the enemies. It is a federal crime that you lived there. I am reporting every single member of the blue team after this game for letting you escape. Even Leoric, who wasn't there. They had you dead to every single right in the world. Yeah, you should be backing 100%. You're out of mana. There's nothing you can do. Yeah, you should have done this like 30 seconds ago. Stop staying, please. You have no mana. You can't contribute. Please, just back. Your mana bar is 0. You don't do anything. Good, I'm finally backing at least, but the fact that it took you so long to back means that now you're late to objective. If you'd backed earlier, you could have been you could have been already at objective with full health and mana. Instead, your team sort of half went to objective and got zoned out because they didn't have a healer, and now you're behind. There's a smash, good. Honestly, I gave it a 50-50 chance that Varian went Wind Blades. I'm glad he went smash. Alright, keep getting your Qs on people. Good. Good. You seem to have the basic idea of how to play Malfurion, which is good. You've obviously either practiced. This obviously is not your first game with him, or you've read some guides and like taken him into the practice tool a little bit. So bad props for that. You have the right idea. I think just as the team fights drag on, and there's more and more mental load on your brain, you're not keeping up with it, which I don't blame you for in the slightest. As I said, Malfurion's a fairly mentally taxing hero. Um, and I would be extremely surprised if you were playing him correctly and got the rhythm of QW down. I went into this replay fully expecting you to be dropping it, and frankly, you're doing better than I anticipated. Just the fact that you went to the fight, you press Q, you press W, and then you press Q on another ally is already great. I wish you'd use Innervate more. You kind of forget that button exists, but that's fine. Not queuing your... I'm now like I say that and you immediately forget to queue your Muradin though. So again, like you start off strong and then I think the mental load gets a little bit too much. There you go. You figured it out eventually. But the delay throws off the entire rhythm. Because every time you delay pressing Q, that also delays your Q on the next person. And having high Q uptime on everyone requires no delay or very little delay on your Qs. The more time you spend with Q off cooldown means the less Qs you're going to have up at a future date. Which is still relevant now because it means that there's less people getting healing from you, but it's going to be even more relevant later when your talents actually care about how many Qs you physically have active. Like right now you have 4, which is good because you have your free Q, you have these 2, you have it on Nazebo, but Nazebo's is about to run out. Now, would you be able to apply it to the Zebo anyway, given how far away he is? Probably not. You can probably just reapply it to Varian here before you forget. Not a bad... Okay, so you did hit the root, and that might lead to a kill here. I disagree with the way you went about it, though. That was very risky. Now, Malfurion has a burst stealing problem, both on himself and on others. He kind of struggles to save people, and he especially struggles to save himself, to the point where in higher level competitive play, Malfurion is not really considered draftable, in a standard comp without an additional burst save. Like you need to draft him in either double support or with a Zarya or like with a Medivh or if you're really corny with a Blaze works for bunker. You need some other way in draft to stop enemies from just blowing you up. So this all goes to show that your positioning here, and especially when someone shows in a second, is really bad. You want to be positioned as far in the back as you can, while still obviously hitting moonfires. That's kind of the other difficulty with Malfurion. You're really susceptible to getting dove and blown up, but you also need to get into a certain range of enemies to hit them with fires. Yeah, Leoric shows up, and instead of running away, you actually run into him and try and like duel him in melee range, which is bad for many, many reasons. The obvious of he's better in melee range than you are and will beat the crap out of you normally. And then the follow-up of he probably has friends coming and you don't want to be there when they show up. So like you kind of doing that allows you to get a raw root on him, but I would much prefer that you were further back, didn't get the root, but weren't in this position to begin with. Again, you aren't punished for it, and really is not a way for them to punish you at the moment. But just the fact that you're here is not a habit I want you to be building. Also, again, be queuing your Varian. Cool. Job. Another W here. Again, stop running into melee range. Make sure you queue your Muradin. Good. Nice. Actually live. Nice. W the Lily. Good. That's the wrong way. After you run down here, you should be running to the right to get a Q on your Tassadar and keep hitting W's. W? Q the Varian. Okay. You could have played that better, but you are alive. Your team's alive. You could have definitely played it a lot worse. Nice. Stop walking into melee range, please. I need to get, like, some sort of spray bottle. Every time you walk into melee range of the enemies on a ranged, squishy healer, high priority target character, spritz with the spray bottle. You should be, like, back here. Max range to W that person. This is illegal on so many levels. Fortunately, Hogger did a Hogger thing and inted himself. Innervate. Unfortunate. I wouldn't really use your W for race just because of how mana intensive that is. Also be pressing Q. You have multiple people that don't have Qs on them that could have Qs on them. You have all 5 people here, which means you need to be picture perfect on your Q usage to keep Q up. Because ideally, you want it to be by the time enemies fight you, have Qs on everyone. So you're not applying Qs. You're just refreshing Qs. That means every single W is healing your entire team. Everyone has the little heal ticking on them. They're all getting healed from W, and when you hit level 7 in a second, they're all available to be cleansed. If any of them get gone on, you can press cleanse and it will hit them. But right now, enemies are showing up, and that's not true. You have 2 Qs active out of the 5 that you want. And again, we're not going for all 5. That's a little bit too much to focus on, I think, but definitely at least 4. 4 is absolutely doable. 2 is, you're not pressing Q. You're also getting hit by stuns. Actually, I have 1 Q active now. There's 3. Cool. I'll pick your challenge, by the way. Good. Sure. So the things you're looking to cure are largely Hogger wall stuns and Garrosh Q. Those are really the cleansable things you care about. Maybe Leoric slows, especially since he has his increased slow on 4. If they're going to be a problem, you have to play that largely by ear. But the big thing that helps with cleanse is just identifying in the loading screen if you're going to be taking cleanse or if you have a baseline cleanse, what abilities on the enemy team you want to be cleansing, and then you just have to watch out for those. So you don't have to sort of judge in the moment, like, oh, do I need to cleanse this? Do I need to cleanse this? Do I need to cleanse this? You can just sort of say, okay, on their team they have a Muradin who's going to throw a stun for an engage. if I see stun go out on an ally and like there's a remotely threatening enemy presence around that can take advantage of that, I just press cleanse. This is a little bit of an interesting strategy by you. Usually you want to push with your immortal, but pushing the opposite lane is not terrible either, because as you can see, the enemy team has all went to defend this. So you can either push this lane, which has greater pushing power, but also greater defense, or you could push this lane, which has less pushing power, but also less defense. That largely depends on what your team is better at. If you're better at team fighting, you usually want to go push the lane with the immortal, uh, because you need the help with the pushing. And also, if you're better at team fighting, this defense isn't that great of a problem, because you'll just kill them, ideally. If you're better at pushing, then this is great because there's no one to really stop you pushing, and you kind of create this dual-pronged threat where they have to stop this, but they also want to stop this. So you gamble that they maybe respond to one not as much as they should be, or you just hard push the other lane and create too much of a threat there. You don't want to be taking these tower shots. You also don't need to want to be hitting those roots. Or trying to hit those roots, I should say. Like, hitting the roots is great, but it wastes the mana and wastes the cooldown. Yeah. Given where most of your team is, you do want to be top lane, by the way. This is just standard healer, um, like healer 101 stuff. Healers are great at team fighting, not great at much else, with some exceptions like Rhaegar and stuff who break the rules. But as a healer, you generally want to be wherever your team and the bad guys are. Like over here, you're not doing much. Hastar isn't really under much threat or taking much damage that he needs you for. Meanwhile, top lane, your team's actively fighting and could absolutely use the resources you could give them. And you don't contribute much here. You don't push very hard, versus like up here, you fight very hard, which is what your team's doing. So you don't. And the result is you don't let Tassadar push much faster than he's pushing here. But up top, you could allow your team to push a lot harder by letting them stay in the fight. Your resources are better leveraged top.
I'm going to pull back. For now. Rage has not subsided. I will return, and then the heavens will fall.
I would have continued with your back, honestly. There wasn't really much of a play here. There wasn't anyone in range. If you were in range, if you and Tassadar were in range when Burden found Hogger there, you could have hit the root into like Tassadar's stuff and maybe there was a kill. But the fact that you weren't in range means that Hogger kind of gets to get out. By the time you cancel your back and get over there, the play is completely dead. You gotta stop for going for these raw roots. They're hitting far more than they should, and honestly, it's impressive that you're hit so many raw roots. It's not an easy ability to hit raw. Props to you. But this route doesn't do anything. Like, no one's in range to follow up on it. I guess it keeps Hogger from running at your team. But do you care that much? I don't really think so. Like, it means that Hogger's not able to follow up when Garrosh finds a throw on you, but Garrosh won't be able to find a throw on you if you don't step up for the raw route. Garrosh should never, if you're positioned correctly, Garrosh should never be able to find a throw on you. Moment. Use on your Muradin, press Innervate on your Tassadar, or maybe Muradin even. Kill. Arguably, you're better off rotating top here, because again, I don't think your Tassadar really needs much. But also, your Muradin isn't really getting anything done without DPS behind him anyway, so, you know. Decent try with the root, honestly. That one may be worth trying to raw root, because you get a kill if you hit it. I would just tap now, by the way. You're like decently low on mana. You're like 60%-ish. And you have a chance to tap now. And the quicker you tap, the quicker you can tap next. Yeah, and Malfurion eats through mana. Any mana you can get ticking on him is good.
Return soon. You must rip him apart.
I don't know if I agree with going top here. You've got two people bot. Yeah, this is about to happen. Like, I mean, either or, I guess. I would stick more towards your damage, because up here I don't think many plays are going to be made. Down here, the extra sustain is more relevant that you give them. But we'll see what you do top lane. Really good W. You're good. Also innervate. Good try with the W. Again, won't fault you for missing the skill shots. Remember to innervate even, that's good.
Taste of fear.
Yeah, and that's kind of why they want, I think you'd be better off bot. You're about to get entombed. Holy crap, bro, saved the entomb for next game so hard and he missed it. Jesus. Free entomb, free entomb, free entomb, free entomb. Oh, no longer free entomb. Whiffed at the very end. That's criminal. Shockwave, you need to be pressing Tranquility, by the way. Yep. Did you just Q your Muradin a second time? I think you did. You have Q up, you should be queuing your Varian, actually. You don't need to queue yourself. If you queue your Varian, Varian gets the queue, and you also get the queue because of Rejuvenation. After level 4, you should never queue yourself. Queue your Varian. I guess queuing the Muradin's fine, because he's in there, Varian's out. But if you queue, basically, if you queued Varian at the start there, then you could queue Muradin, and Varian could also be getting healing. Varian won't have to go out because he'd be getting healing. And, yeah. Also, if you press Tranquility, your team might just win this by default. Good W. You're finding some good multi-target Ws. Don't try that. Wait for your Muradin to stun. It's so much easier. Or at the very least, wait for your Varian to slow. Wait for some setup CC to make it more reliable. Innervate. Yeah, you're kind of low on mana here. Personally, I would be, instead of moving here, like, I don't know, 10 seconds ago, I'd be pinging my mana bar, which you can do by holding Alt and then clicking on it. Pinging, like, Danger, pinging Healing Fountain, and going to tap Healing Fountain and then come back, because you're about to go into another team fight with very low mana. You're about to run out of mana really quickly. So make sure you get Tranquility off before you do. Yikes. You're dead. We're saving throw for next game. You're dead? Dead? Surely you're dead now. You're dead. Okay. Yeah. So it took about 20 years longer than it should have. Oh, he used throw already? Oh, it should. Okay. There's no way throw is not up when you face check him. Where is he? Here? It's not up. Wait. Guess it's not up. He didn't have Unstoppable up. He didn't take Unstoppable. Okay. Nah, never mind. Throw wasn't up. So, it took about as long as it should have. But still, we cannot be face checking the Garrosh here. Because you do see him. He's invisible basically the entire time. You know he's running up here, and you walk up to, like, press W on the Immortal while you know that Garrosh is walking up towards you. And that gets you killed, eventually. Also, walking back into him after the root gets you killed. You could have queued, you could have cleansed any one of the Decimate slows, by the way, and that probably gets you out. like here, if you cleanse the slow, or if you even cleanse it earlier after the Q lands, because his Q slows as well. If you cleanse any of the slows, you can probably get away in time. Luckily, it's a fat Ravenous Spirit, so you kinda win. But you could have won while also being alive. Alright, get in there, start pressing Qs. Start press Tranquility too. I guess you don't need Tranquility anymore. Good root, by the way. I don't think I called that when you did it, but... Decent root, yeah. Good hit on that guy. Alright, you want to be pushing with this one, definitely. Because the fort's gone in this lane, it's really dangerous to push all the way up to keep. Doesn't make just trying to get the fort down in the other lane. Innervate your Tassadar, or your Murden, either or. You're stepping up a little far. That's a route that's gonna hit no one. Good W. If you queued your Murden beforehand, it would have been an even better W. Alright, this is not a good Tranquility. This is the first time you've pressed Tranquility this game. It's completely unnecessary. You three are on full health. This guy doesn't need Tranquility because he's going to regen passively because of his trait. If you didn't know, Muradin's trait is that after not taking damage for a little bit, he regenerates health passively. He also doesn't. He's also fairly high health to begin with, and about 50%. Good enough. It is viable to use Tranquility out of combat if your team just needs to heal up to stay on the map, but that's not the case here. So you're using Tranquility only to heal up this guy who's going to heal himself, basically. I think you kind of just remembered your button existed and wanted to press it. Also, the fact that you didn't have WQ on that Varian meant that he died. I haven't been calling it, but like no Q used. There we go. There it is. It's a little late though. Q's up and two people need Q and you're not pressing it. Also not pressing W. The W's a little more relevant because a little less relevant because maybe you don't want to take tower aggro, but still. And the fact that you don't have Tranquility now means that when the fight actually does break out and the rest of your team needs healing, also Q. Okay. Again, you have Rejuvenation. You should never be pressing Q on yourself if someone else is nearby. You have Q up. Your Tassadar is in combat and needs healing. You're full health. You Q yourself. You could save. Okay, the root actually saves him. Please Q him. Good. Okay. Tassadar largely saves himself along with your root. You could have made that a lot less close, though, by just queuing him. Q your Muradin. Innervate your Tassadar. We'll just occasionally remind you. But as a general rule, this entire game, you're not pressing Q enough, you're not pressing Innervate nearly enough, and you're also not pressing W enough. Basically, all your abilities need work, but that's fine, because I think you largely know, or at least have sort of truthfully guessed. You're just not, again, keeping it up, because it's a lot to pay attention to. I don't think you go anymore. Oh, the root, it's a free root on the Leoric. I mean, okay, that did end up being a fat root, but there's no reason that should have been a fat root. You should just have rooted the Leoric. This press root here, it's free. These guys are walking into the raw root. You press elsewhere. Like, you press root right near Garage and he doesn't pay attention in time, and he gets hit by it. He doesn't have Unstoppable, but then these two see the root going out and both walk into it. Like, I don't know, mind control technology, I guess. It should not have worked. You're playing way too far back. You can still play up. You have level 13 move speed now. Press trank, press trank, press trank, press trank, press trank, trank, W, anything. You press the one button that do anything. Yeah, you're pressing trank way too late. Trank is more healing, but it's still only it's still 144 health per second. It's not like burst healing. You don't want to press it when your team's about to die. You want to press it way beforehand so that the armor and the trickle healing keeps them topped off. It's not going to heal someone back from 0 to full if they're under fire. If they're under fire, they're dying if they're at that low health. You want to press it at high health so that they can't get to low health in the first place. Like you can see, it's not refilling your health that much. If Tychus is actually able to hit you, you're dead. Actually, don't think its healing saved you at all. I think by the time the healing went out, you were good try with the root. Put it a little further back though. The slow does set up the root enough to be fairly reliable. You just mispositioned it. Do your Tassadar, by the way. Dude's struggling. Or your Varian, because your Varian's about to go and Q someone. Yeah, way too late of a Q on the Varian. You're stepping up too much. You have your level 13 move speed. You should be dancing back and forth across the screen. You should never be stepping that far up. You just shouldn't need to. Play at your max W range. This bush is scary. Alright, you're fine. You see Garrosh now. That's raw root. That doesn't do anything. W's. You ready to Q your Muradin? Good. Raw root does nothing and wastes mana. Keep Q's active. Good. I like running at them. You have level 16 advantage over them. If you don't run at them, you should just run at them, no? Alright, we're just racing. Also valid, I guess. So you get a position, yeah. Position, like, further back. Probably, like, back here, ideally, because they could come from either here or here. Probably more here, because you saw most of them top. But you did just see someone show bottom, so you want to be careful of that. There's a lot of areas they could come from, and you're a high-value target. So focus on keeping yourself safe. Try and step up to your Varian. He needs help. Trank. Good. I wish you'd pressed it like a couple seconds earlier, but that's fine. W's, Q's, W's. So you can press other buttons while Trank is active, by the way. It's not a channeled ability. Your other buttons are still pressable. They won't cancel it. Alright, well, I want to take a look at this one more time, because you played it. This was kind of a mess from everyone involved. So first of all, let's go back even further. Alright, so we're setting up for objective. Make sure Qs are on everyone, first of all. Again, preset the Qs. Make sure they're up so that when the team fight breaks out, everyone has them on you already. Also, interesting thing, Aegis Swiftness here, once you have this, if you have sufficient Qs active, which is something you should be doing anyway, your base walking speed is pretty close to mount speed. So you can basically walk with your team to keep the Qs up on them, and you don't really lose that much from not being mounted. So you don't need to mount if you have your Qs on people. Alright, as soon as this happens, you probably want to move a little bit further up. I don't know what this route was for. I guess to try and zone people from coming here, but they could also just come from here. It's not going to stop that much, or they could go around. There's no one you're trying to root. But yeah, as soon as someone shows up here, I would move a little bit further up. This does two things. One, it puts you more in range of people that need healing. So like your Varian, for example, right here. It lets you heal him easier. And two, it gets you away from down here. If anyone's trying to show up down here, if you're moving up, now that you see a guy here, it's almost safer because, well, you know that there's no one else over here at the very least. So, and you have vision over here, so you can play like over here, and you're completely fine. Versus playing over here, you have your vision cuts off like around here and like around here-ish, it's a lot easier for people to come up to you there. Yeah, your Varian's going in and you're sort of standing back here. You shouldn't trust that Variant has it. If you can, you should be helping him. Especially since, again, you only need one Q on him. If you had gotten a Q on him over here and then gone back down, you could be Wing this guy and Q is healing Variant over there. Now, as soon as people show up here, I would probably just press Trank. It's the... Yeah, so you lose half of your health before you press Trank, and that's half your health that 10 armor could have been protecting. And you probably could have gotten a couple tick or two of Trank to mitigate that already. And then again, yeah, as Trank starts ticking, and then you just stop pressing buttons. Like Q, W, you W once when it's over. And then also your positioning after you Trank. Like you Trank, you run away a little bit. And then I like going here, and then sort of moving backwards here. Trust Murden to get himself out, you can't really help him. Move more towards the right. Yeah, you move towards the right, and then you move back towards the left, which is not where you want to go, because your team's retreating towards the right here. Tassaro's retreating to the right. Debo, I don't know, but here is danger. Here, you know enemies aren't, because you see them all here. So you move towards the left, then you kind of move back to the right, so then you keep sort of sitting in the middle of their team. And then you move to the left. Yeah, if you just moved to the right and stayed here and pressed W, you could have lived. So you could have saved... Maybe you could have saved Varian, I think, if you move up with him a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. It depends a little bit. Actually, so there's three things you should have done. One, if you set up all your Qs beforehand, Varian's definitely fine, and you have more value from your 13 and 16, and your entire team just stays alive better. Two, if you help your Varian a little bit more, make sure he has the Q on him. If you haven't queued him at the start, then he might survive, might not. I don't know. He went pretty deep. And then three, your movement with Tranquility, your lateness without Tranquility, and then your like movement around here, hugging their front line instead of walking away, could have saved yourself. So it's very possible that you could have won that team fight with better play. Fast forward a little bit. Get you back up. Alright, we're gonna move up. Put a Q on our Muradin. Good. Move up a little more. Luckily, your team appears to have turned it around while you died. That's nice. Make sure your Q's are still going on people. Good. Innervate as well. Remember, Innervate also has the cooldown reduction tied to it, so you just increase the DPS of whoever you innervate. So even if no one specifically needs innervate right now, and like, I think that's the Zebo down there. No, the Zebo's up there. This is Murden here. We have Murden here, doesn't necessarily need innervate, and I think he does. Even just putting innervate on someone means they're putting more abilities out per second, so they're racing the Immortal faster, and in a team fight, they're doing more damage. Alright, this is going to go top. We're going to try and push with that. Hopefully we can get the keep at the very least. Definitely want to be going top. Good. Yeah, we're just pushing top as 5. Good job on Zebo getting that camp too. That's a big push we've got going on here. Again, as we're preparing here, get Qs on people. Remember, you basically get mount speed with Nature's Swiftness if you have Qs on everyone anyway, so there's no reason not to. You shouldn't ever, after 13, you rarely should be mounting up with your team as Malfurion. If you're rotating with your team, you can do it on foot and just keep applying the Qs. Good Q. You're stepping up a little bit too far. Raw root. Trank. Good. Stay in. Stay up there. Keep queuing. Remember, you can press abilities while... okay, yeah. I think you legitimately don't know that you can press abilities while you have Trank active. Which I guess I can't fault you for. It sort of seems like an ability that you shouldn't have to be able to use abilities during. But let's just... I'll include it in my text summary just to make sure you know. Oh, this is a fat raw root. Root? Where? Oh, you rooted a little bit too close to you. You could have rooted further up. This is fine. You're kind of winning. Use up. You're stepping way too far up here. You cannot be doing this. Your team is down there. Luckily, your 13 move speed means you dodge the Garrosh thing, but you cannot be doing that. Walk down and Q your Muradin. Good. You can step up and keep Wing. Good. You might be able to end here. I think we push for it. It's Immortal's still pretty high health. Keep the Qs up. What do you... This is... This thing doesn't matter. You're hitting the core. Do your Tassadar. We used Innervate at some point. Good job. Garrosh kind of tossed throw there. If he throws you backwards, you die. You might still die there, actually. Pretty sure you actually still died. I think I fast-forwarded before the last shot was going to kill you. Yeah, you spent a lot of time hugging the Garrosh. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're dead here. No? Okay. Speed got you out. Cool. Alright, you won. Good job. Alright. Take a look. So, build, we went over build at the start, and you basically took everything that I thought you were going to take based on the Icy Veins build, so I won't rehash that again. So, tips to take away from, really just pressing your buttons more. Well, there's two things. Okay. Yeah, the first is pressing your buttons more, as I basically went over at the start, so I won't rehash that too much, but you're holding your Qs too much, you're holding your Ws too much. You're going for raw E's a lot when you don't need to, which means you don't have them up when like your Muradin lands a stun. And then you're not pressing Tranquility soon enough. And then also you're not pressing Innervate nearly at all. Also, I don't think Cleanse really got any value that game. I definitely think Wild Growth would have been more value for you, but it's good to practice with Cleanse, so I don't have a problem with you taking it. So the first is just pressing your abilities better, which again, we've went over already. I won't rehash that. And then the other thing is your positioning. You are stepping way too far up, way too often, to the point of being in melee range of Garrosh multiple times this game, which never should be happening. That's largely just general healer positioning. And I think both of these come with more practice. Like, there's no big revelations here. This video can certainly show you the mistakes you're making, but a lot of them are just fixed by playing more and getting more comfortable with the hero and what you can get away with. Yeah, you generally want to stay further in the back. You can sort of step up with your move speed, get a W, step back, stay back behind your team, play at max W range, or even further beyond that, because with the move speed, you can stay even further back and then just step up every 3 seconds for a W. Yeah. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, as always, good luck in your future games.